You're watching Coping with COVID-19 with Chris Manners. Today's special guest is Alaric Degrafinried.
Hi, I'm Chris Manners, and you're watching Coping with COVID-19. My guest today is Alaric Degrafinried, Acting Director of San Francisco Public Works. He's here with us today to talk about how his department has pivoted to help the city during this pandemic, and to talk about some of their ongoing projects. Mr. Degrafinried, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you, Chris.
I know there are some unique challenges for our unhoused population during this crisis, namely hand washing and social distancing. How has Public Works been actively addressing these problems?
Chris, ever since Public Works got involved with the response to COVID, and it really began on day one, we've been working with the unhoused community and really the city more broadly, doing things like helping to identify and design and construct the safe and sleeping sites. We've been doing helping other areas, like helping to do some of the site prep for the testing centers that are all over the city now. And we've also been helping to retrofit and to design some of as a medical facility. So we are, as a city, prepared to address and the surge if and when that does happen. And we've also done some things from the operations side, where we have basically been able to double almost the size of the pit stop program. So providing in the public toilets and restrooms to both unhoused people of San Francisco and really to all the people of San Francisco. We've done things like taking over the management of the hand washing stations and things like that as well. And that's just some of the things that are really regarding specifically to COVID. But then on top of that, we've been doing our and the day-to-day work that we always do, helping to resolve some of the as the encampments as across the city, working in with the other departments of the city to make sure we're doing extra cleaning around as the food stations, so the areas where they are trying to distribute food. And then really something we've been doing more recently is then in partnering with our colleagues at the MTA, planning, and other departments to try and set up the shared spaces programs. This is kind of bringing that Paris and kind of feel here to San Francisco, where you're now seeing businesses, restaurants, and things like that beginning to operate in the right of way, whether it be on the sidewalk, in the parking lane. And there are actually some areas here in the city where they're now occupying the entire street. So we're hoping that all these efforts are going a long way to make the city can bounce back.
Absolutely. It's great to see that the city is coming up with ideas that will both keep people safe and let some of our businesses partially reopen.
Absolutely.
Now, I understand that most city workers are also categorized as essential workers, but at the moment, a lot of our city buildings are still closed. How has your staff been redeployed to help out during this pandemic?
Well, at San Francisco, and Public Works had over 100 people assigned as Emergency Operations Center. And there, they've worked on everything ranging from finance and logistics to accounting to communications. We've also had some of our staff reassigned, where we've had people that were working within our Bureau of Urban Forestry, and we've had them redeployed within our street cleaning group. So really just trying to find ways to solve problems as best we can.
I've heard that some of the city's interior painters who'd normally be working inside city buildings have been repurposed to work outside and remove graffiti.
Yeah. And that's really, and also, Chris, that's a really good example of trying to find ways that we can use those same individuals, those same skill sets, but then use them in a way that's safe. The one thing we've learned throughout this process with COVID and shelter in place is that, if you're inside, it's more at risk. And so whether it be, you as an individual, as a resident, or you as a employee or worker for the city and county of San Francisco, if getting you outside is important. And, for everyone, if you're at home, those in a few minutes that you may have to go on a walk around your neighborhood, you don't want to see the graffiti and things like that. So we're trying to make a conscious effort to clean those things up.
No, that's great. Now, I'm glad to hear that the pandemic hasn't halted our ongoing construction. Can you tell me how the new animal care and control shelter is progressing? And how about the state-of-the-art ambulance deployment facility?
Yeah, I mean, and for all those projects, are moving along very, very well. As animal and the care and control facility, that addressed a lot of the deficiencies that they had at the previous facility regarding and the ventilation and being able to separate the animals actually in a safe way. And that project, along with the ambulance and deployment facility, those are all on track to be wrapping up towards the end of this year, at the latest at the beginning of next year. You know, we had some slight delays early when we went into COVID, just trying to understand what the rules were about operating in construction, but we worked in closely with and the health officer, the other departments here across the city, along with and the contractors, to kind of come up with rules as far as and the way it would work, as far as we've had to implement things like no sharing of tools. We're trying to limit the number of people that are going up together in the lifts and things like that. And one of the things I'm proud to say is the procedures that were not just used here locally or even regionally, they were adopted as across the state. And that's one thing I'm very proud of, is the speed at which we, the city and county of San Francisco, was able to work with our partners to keep our projects going. And these are just as a handful of examples of some great projects that are now on schedule to be built on time.
I think people are pretty fascinated by the floating Fireboat Station 35 project. How's that going?
Sure. And the Fireboat Station, it's number 35 at Pier 22 and a half. It's a 2-story building. It's going to be as about 15,000 square feet. And that's the thing that's fascinating about it. I mean, this is as a floating station. It was actually built in Shanghai, and it's currently now over at Pier 1 in Treasure Island, and it will be there for the rest of this year. And the plan is to float it over across the bay, and it's going to find as its permanent home at the Embarcadero at the beginning of next year.
Finally, I understand that we're doing some street improvements. How is the Jefferson Streetscape project going? And can you tell us about the Upper Haight transit and pedestrian improvements?
And those projects are both also going well. I mean, again, that's just one more example of really the thought and the collaboration of the project team here at Public Works, along with the merchants that are going to be impacted by those projects. Once we went into shelter in place, we were able to quickly pivot and then to realize that, okay, this could be a time for us to speed up some schedules, because as a number of the storefronts that were and typically open day in and day out receiving customers weren't open during those periods. So what we were able to do was to speed up some of the schedules there on the Upper Haight Street. Actually, we're actually going to be able to speed up the schedule and finish early on that project. And likewise for the project on the Jefferson Street project, we were able to make up some ground that we had lost, allowing us to do things like to close down certain sidewalks, close down some full streets and things like that. And again, that was something we would not have been able to do without the partnership and the collaboration between the contractor, Public Works, and the merchants.
Well, thanks so much. I really appreciate you coming on the show, Mr. Degrafinried. Thank you for the time you've given us today.
Hey, thank you, Chris.
And that's it for this episode. We'll be back with more pandemic-related information shortly. You've been watching Coping with COVID-19. For SFGovTV, I'm Chris Manners. Thanks for watching.